Thank you.
Yep,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
Okay. So before we begin, we will introduce ourselves first. So my name is Magazim. And
And my name is Muhammad Zami.
oh, Echo.
Oo.
Okay. His name is Zami. Zami. So uh, uh, today we are going to do an interview about it is to investigating conflicts and misunderstanding about verbal and non-verbal communications. So that's the main focus. So it has nothing to do with culture differences or try to compare with. So I have given you um, the samples questions that we are going to interview you. So before, so we want you. So the first question is, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes. Well, my name is Miroslava Osorio, and I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, in the USA. And my parents are from Mexico, so I'm Mexican American by heritage. And I attended the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, where I studied global studies and had the opportunity to do research in the US and abroad, where I was able to study abroad and work with different organizations. And then after that, I was working in Chicago within the legal industry before I went to before I was accepted into the Fulbright English Teaching Assistantship Program through the US Department of State. And that brought me to Malaysia. Due to COVID 19, we were evacuated and then brought back to our home. And for me, that was Chicago. And then upon returning, I worked in the technology industry. And so now I currently teach STEM, which would stand for, um, I use the word STEM, but it really encompasses science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Um, I don't teach science, but I teach other components of STEM. And I still live in Chicago, and I'm studying cybersecurity.
You used to tell me that you're going to be a lawyer.
I know. I decided that was not for me anymore.
I was hoping you for to be a lawyer actually.
Younger me thought I was going to be a lawyer, and then I realized I'm not very passionate about the work or defending maybe laws that I don't agree with. I prefer to do public policy where I can help shape and create some of the policies.
So it's been a long time. So so I'm going to ask you additional questions. So you say that you're by right you're Mexican heritage, right? So that
Yes,
means uh, Mexican is Latin people.
yes. So Mexico is part of Latin America, and that by default makes me Latina because
Latina.
I'm a female, a woman. And so the A at the end means I am a woman that identifies of a Latin American country by heritage or by birth. In my case, it's by heritage because I was not born in Mexico. I was born in the USA, but my parents immigrated.
Okay. So you've been to Malaysia for like let's say 1 year. So have you been to any other country and for some time and you work there or do any business?
I was in other countries for education, not for business. So I studied abroad in Ecuador,
Ecuador.
Austria, and Spain.
Oh,
Yep.
so many. A perfect subject for ours. Hmm. Okay, so we're going to move to next question. So the next question is, uh, what are some of the verbal and non-verbal communication differences that you have encountered or observed in Malaysia?
I know that you mentioned we couldn't necessarily attribute it to cultural connections, but I would say that maybe one of the more general one, for example, was when we eat, we use our right hand to eat, whereas our left hand cannot be used when you're eating because it's used when you're going to the restroom, and so it's looked at
Yes.
as an offense. Um, and that's also based off of how you use the bathrooms in Malaysia versus maybe the USA. Um, and so that was one of the nonverbal communications that I noticed whenever I would eat in the school or in other settings. I also noticed that students would often come up to the teachers and try to ask if they could kiss their hand. And that is something you don't see in the USA. In the USA, you might see a student wanting to hug a teacher, but they'd have to ask. And in Malaysia, I came to understand that the students were doing it out of respect, not so much out of maybe like authority or force. It was out of the willingness, out of the student's heart to want to do this action. And so that was another nonverbal communication cue that I picked up on. In terms of verbal, there was always a greeting. For example, a hello before you start to communicate with someone. And then in other places, sometimes in the US, you don't always get certain communication like that. You don't get a hello, such and such. It's sometimes they just jump straight into the question. So the greeting is part of that verbal communication. That's part of being respectful over there.
Okay.
And let me think.
Sure, sure. Take your time. So keep
Oh,
it.
for nonverbal, I noticed that it was very offensive if you used your index finger to point.
Which one
So
is it?
often you would
What is?
hold like, yeah, your index finger would be this one, right?
Ah,
And so I noticed that it was offensive if you used it to point towards certain, like a direction. So if anything,
you do
they
this
would,
using this.
yes.
Okay, I
Yeah, I
understand.
noticed that, yes, you would use your entire hand. You never really wanted to use any specific finger to point because I noticed it was seen as a little bit disrespectful.
Um, um, do you want me to explain about it?
Sure.
Okay, so in Malaysia, they have some courtesy, especially to someone with authority or high ups, high ranking. Doesn't matter parents or anyone, but between age, yes. So when you want to point at something, you use your mother- this finger.
Thumb.
So you
Thumb?
do this thumb, and then you point it like this. So, but if you do this using this, you may do such, but to let's say friends or someone you know so much. At some state, it is yes, just like you say, offensive. So it is better to just use this, not to use this finger,
Hmm.
even though that's the point of this finger.
Yeah. Thank you for
So
explaining.
how about US? Do they have any differences when they want to point something?
They could use the index finger to point, and Yeah. There's no offense with it. I think it's common, or it's a yeah, just regular thing that people use or do here.
because some people when we do this in the finger, they it's like a sign of, how do you say, um, like authoritarian, like you are someone with tegas apa singa apa? Ah, like street person, when you do this,
Hmm.
it's like someone who
Like a commander or something.
commander, someone with power. So it
Yeah.
is sometimes. So now let's move to the next question. So have you had any experience of misunderstanding due to the language barrier at your previous workplace in Malaysia?
Yes, I had a few misunderstandings. And okay, so for example, in the US, it's what we consider a melting pot because we have so many people from all over the world who come into one spot. And so that's part of the idea that it's a lot of us in one pot. And so we're just all kind of melting together, or like they call it melting pot, but it's sort of like living in the same area and coexisting.
Melting.
And I noticed that Malaysia has that too. But uh, one of the biggest misunderstandings that I quickly picked up on was in the interactions between genders, specifically with Muslim Malaysians. I know that our school had a mix of students, but certain things like a high five was not acceptable between a woman teacher, a female teacher with their male student. And so at one point, I went to watch a volleyball game where they were doing really well, and I tried high fiving a student, and then quickly learned that that was a big misunderstanding. Like, I was not supposed to do that. And that was something I caught myself, and then I realized I never had to do it again, or I couldn't do it again over there. But it's a communication style that is acceptable in the US because it's more normalized and it's less based off of religion and more so out of like social etiquette between everyone. And so that was one that is attributed to part of the culture in Malaysia, but also with the religion. And along with that, there were a few more misunderstandings that I remember coming across. Hang on a second.
You should. I think I remember who you high five with. Was it Chinese?
So the Chinese students I did high five and the Indian Malaysians, they were receptive or they were okay with it.
Yeah, of course. But Malaysia. So
Yeah, not Muslim Malaysians.
mm,
Um,
can kiss on cheeks.
right, and in the Latin culture, um, me being Latina, when I greet my family, I give them a kiss on the cheek, no matter if they're by a man or woman. It's just a cultural thing. The French
I
do
do
it
too.
too. Huh?
I do too. But
Oh,
uh, to my eldest. Mm,
okay, okay. Out of like respect, right? Okay, so another misunderstanding, maybe because I know when we had our sports week, I thought that women maybe could use a workout outfit, but I still had to use long pants. And so that was just a misunderstanding. And I was given a shirt too. so that I wouldn't wear my shirt because my outfit was not considered okay, even though it was a shirt that covered my body. They wanted a bigger shirt for me, and the same thing for my pants. So although I had a workout outfit, I was told that it had to be more bigger and not, even if it was my size, it had to go up a little bigger so it could be loose.
Sorry.
And that was just a misunderstanding that I didn't know. I'm used to wearing clothes that fits my body, but then I made sure that I bought bigger outfits so that when we had sports week, I would wear that versus my own clothes that I brought from the US to be able to make sure that I was following the rules and the expectations for the activities that we were doing with our students and the staff.
Um, so, what about the language?
I had a language barrier because I was not fluent in Malay and I was learning when I was there. And while I was learning the language, I practiced it. I with the students, with my mentor, and with the English department at the school. But I do know that I had a gap because I was trying to learn it really fast. And when I ended up getting sick, at one point I had to stay home. And I remember telling the community that took care of us as Fulbright ETAs, did a lot of check ins with us. And so they checked in on me. And I remember communicating, telling them that I was not feeling well. And it may seem a little silly, but they asked if they could bring tea and sugar and a lot of other things. And I said, sure, tea would be, or I think something along the lines of tea. And I said, oh, it's okay. I wouldn't need sugar. And I really meant it. I didn't. It's okay. I didn't need to have that sugar with me, but it was. It definitely came off as weird to the person. They're like, "Oh, well, she must be really sick because how does someone turn down something with sugar?" And um, I just wanted to share with them that I normally don't have it with my tea, and I just have the tea bag. So that was a bit of an in communication, a verbal communication mistake. Um, Another, okay, here's one that was really big where it was out of the ordinary. I was living in a home in Toronto
Mhm.
with another roommate. So both of us were Americans. We had an issue in our ceiling, so not the roof, but the ceiling above it,
Yes.
where there was some weird noise coming from there, and we didn't know what that was. And so we called an exterminator twice. The very first time we struggled because they only spoke Malay. We were not fluent enough to communicate what was happening, so we had to call my roommate's mentor to translate for us on the phone. And when the exterminator team came, they came in a big truck, and it was like a truck that could fit a lion. And we didn't know what was up there, but we knew it was not that big. And so we were trying to explain that it was making sounds, it was running around, and it sounded like it was more than one. So this is just a big communication barrier where we needed them to go up there to check it and let us know what was happening. And then when we called the second time, we had our mentor ready so that she can help us communicate. But that was the biggest communication barrier because we're trying to explain a situation that we need to take care of right away and make sure that they also arrive to be able to remove the thing up there. In the end, we never found out what was up there. It only came out at night.
Must be fox. I think we have fox in Geronto.
Oh, you do?
Mm. But it sounds like woman shrieking. Mm. You know, let me tell you something. Uh, the fox that were in Geronto or anywhere else in state of Malaysia, they have sound which they produce sounds like woman's shrieking. It's like woman crying or begging. So we in Malay, sometimes we thought, oh, it's a ghost. And then we run away. But elders say, oh, that's just fox. Because we're not very frequently found fox. I actually never found fox before, even now.
Yeah, I didn't know that there were foxes in Toronto. I never saw one.
It's very hard actually. Our fox, it's black. Black and white stripes. They were ugly, right? They did actually. They were ugly. Ah, some say they smell like popcorn, but I don't know if that's true. But most of them, many say they smell like popcorn.
Okay, that's interesting. Popcorn. I like popcorn, but I don't want them around me.
Maybe you can hug the fox.
Uh, no, that's okay. I'm okay.
Okay, we're going to the next question. Um, so the next question is, hmm, how do you find the way the women here, Malaysia, speak and compare it with the way you speak?
In Malaysia, women, I think, speak in a way that is respectful, but also treating men in a higher
Hmm?
manner, like a hierarchy, like superior, actually. I think that women in Malaysia talk to men as if they were more superiors, even if they were strangers that they never knew and they meet for the first time. And I can see that that's a form for them to speak in a respectful tone. But for me, in the US, growing up in Chicago, you see that everyone communicates with everyone. And it's not always very respectful, even if they're strangers. So you can use more of a direct tone and more
More like low
concise.
context.
Yeah, whereas in Malaysia, it's not very direct so that you don't come off as someone that's rude. It's more indirect, and you also want to avoid conflict. So you're non confrontational. If there's something that is bothering you, for example, if someone puts a book on a certain uh, desk, let's say, or something that you may not like, you don't, or the woman don't address it in a very direct manner. It's very indirect, and they don't want to make it into a big conflict, but it is bothering them, and the person may just not know because they're not communicating it. And so in the US, someone would tell you if you can, they may ask, can you please move the book? Or they may say, move the book. So it may come off as a question or it may come off directly as a statement. And some people are more polite about it than others. So that's what would really vary. The tone that is used is always going to be more kind in Malaysia. It can be harsh or it can be nice in the US. There is a lot of avoiding of conflicts in Malaysia, and in the US, people can be very direct. And that maybe is something that comes off as assertive or
Assertive.
aggressive, right? So it depends on how the person does it. It could be assertive, that they may be asserting how they'd like to proceed, or the person might just come off as aggressive and want to call attention and tell you what they want in a very disrespectful style. With the woman in Malaysia, oh, the men, they will always deem the men to be more superior. In the US, that is not the case. Women talk to a woman and talk to men in very similar tones. Um, just as a gender thing, if it's someone that's older, they may also talk to them more respectfully because we also respect our elders. That's something that's taught. Let me see if there were other differences that I've noticed. I think women also often ask less questions in Malaysia.
I'm sorry.
They ask less questions. I think they're
Uh,
curious. People are human beings. We're very curious minds.
yeah.
But women, especially adult women, so not children, not girls who are children over there, but
In Malaysia.
women, yeah, in Malaysia, there are curiosity is just always going to be a revolving factor in every human, but women tend to ask less questions. If it's something to ask for clarification, if it's something to ask for something, quite literally, I see that women tend to ask less questions, and I wonder if that's because they don't want to come off as asking too many questions, coming off as annoying, maybe staying more silent. In Mexico, there's a saying that goes, calladita te ves más bonita, which translates, the more that you're quiet, the more prettier that you look. And it's
Oh,
directed to women so that they can be silenced and not speak and not ask questions and not put their input anywhere so that the men can have the only voice. And so I noticed that in Malaysia, women tend to ask less questions or say less versus men. And in the US, women don't hold back, women speak. And they will ask questions. And it could be questions for clarification if they didn't understand something. It could be a statement that would be very random. They could also participate in protests. Women can go ahead and use their voice more freely in the US.
so women here tend to ask less questions. Different between the US, they just don't care. Right.
Yeah, I think that we feel more empowered to use our voice because
Mm,
it's always referred to. If you ever speak to other Americans, it's in the Constitution where um, we have the freedom to speak, pretty much, the freedom to use our voice, and that's always brought up in any conversation that people feel the need to say that, well, I have the freedom to do this, to use my voice. It's called freedom of speech. And so I can go ahead and talk and ask and do as I want because it's my freedom of speech in the US Constitution. And others may say, like, you are entitled to your opinion, which essentially means that, sure, you can speak, but that's just your opinion. And I'll go ahead and respect that that's your opinion, but that is not my opinion because it's just instilled in the Constitution. So it's always referred to. And the Constitution applies to Americans, which, yes, we have people who are from other countries, but they may become Americans. So it really encompasses,
okay.
I look at it as all Americans if you're in the US.
So wait, tulis yang nanti yang the once again the phrase what in Mexican, the less you speak
Yeah. Do you want the Spanish or the English?
the Spanish one.
Okay. And I can also send it to you in the chat. It's
Ah, sure, sure. Okay, thank you.
calladita. Yeah, calladita te ves más bonita. And send that over.
Or you can type it down here. in the chat.
Mm. Actually, I don't have the Spanish keyboard set up, so I'm gonna message it to you
So let me message ka ba? Sure, sure.
because it has accents, and
Ah,
the English keyboard doesn't use accents. Okay, I sent it.
okay. Thank you.
Mm.
So moving on to the next question. Um, number five. So how do you communicate effectively with people from different cultures and background?
What I've learned to do better to communicate with people from other communities is by doing research first before I go to another country to see what the norms, what the interactions look like, to be mindful of that. And then once I am communicating with someone from another background, I make sure that, for example, I don't use my index finger. I try to be very polite about using my hands and my body language. I try to remain very still and very calm to try to engage and use a lot of eye contact to communicate, and a lot of nodding in agreement, and then also introducing myself in a very polite and clear way so that they know who I am. And then I may ask them about themselves and try to be as interested. Honestly, for me, I'm very curious about other cultures, so I'm always interested in learning about what it's like to live in their community, what it's like to um, make homemade dishes. For me, food is the best way to learn how another culture embraces their heritage. And I do my very best to try to see what are some of the best dishes for that community. So when I communicate with others, a lot of my focus is on their upbringing, their community area, and the foods that they eat, and try to share those bonds of how my upbringing might be similar or different to that person while still being respectful. I know that with being in Malaysia, I didn't eat red meat at the time. I only ate chicken and seafood, and Muslim Malaysians do not eat red meat. They also only eat the food if it's halal.
Mm.
And so I knew I couldn't bring anything that had meats in it. I did make guacamole once for the teachers, and they said that that was okay to eat because it was all fruits that were not cooked. And so I'd never cooked that. It was just chopped up and put in a container and mixed around so that it can be used as a spread for anyone to eat with chips. So they were okay with that. But if I had cooked something, they wouldn't be able to eat it because it wasn't halal. And for me, I was okay eating any foods. But I know that when I was invited by Chinese Malaysians or Indian Malaysians, some other foods did have meats. More the Chinese, actually. And so I did eat that, but it was something that I was comfortable with. And so foods, again, is something that bonds me with anyone, where even if I may not know the language.
Wait, Medan cakap, hold on. So, Medan cakap no culture kan?
No culture. Tapi kalau ke arah food, clothes tu tak tahu.
Okay. Thank you.
So
So
in the safe zone.
we are sorry. I'm just taking precaution. Make sure that we are in safe zone because our lecturers say don't try to compare cultures, things, or something. But you
Okay.
can go to cultures in case if it's clothes, foods, just like you said. So thank goodness.
Have to be very, very cautious here.
I'm going to get bar.
Wait. Could you repeat that one more time? I don't think I caught it.
So I will let you say that when you're doing interview with uh, the subject, make sure that you don't do anything like comparing cultures or talking about cultural things so much because we are focusing on verbal and non-verbal. But you can go to questions culture in case if it's more to like clothes, food, something like that, which is just what you say. So safe zone.
Okay, so the food is okay.
The food is okay.
Okay.
Right. Thank you. So okay. So question number six. mm, how do you adjust vocabulary and language tools effectively to communicate with Malaysians?
When it's written, I don't use exclamation marks. I only use periods and question marks in any written communication because I learned that exclamation marks are very direct and not very receptive way of, messaging, emailing, writing to someone in Malaysia. So if it's anything that's in written communication, it's just periods and question marks.
Question.
Yes. And then if it's in verbal communication with someone in Malaysia, I always use a greeting. And then after a greeting, for example, I may say, I'm forgetting the word, but I used to say this all the time in the morning. Salama. How do you say good morning?
Selamat pagi.
Salama pagi to anyone that I would see. It was a quick salama pagi, just a greeting. And then if I had something to let them know, then I would be very short and clear. So it could be salama pagi. I printed or I have the notebooks ready in the office. Very short. Or salama pagi. I'm ready to go to the class or something. Just very quick and short. Sorry about that. There's a fire department right across where I live, and so it's morning time here, and I'm guessing that it's starting to get busy with them. So they're not usually that loud, but just in case you
Maybe there
hear
was
them, yeah, in case you hear them, that's the reason why, because they're pretty close to my home. Um,
right.
and so yeah, with verbal communication, it's always a greeting and very short and clear.
Sure. Clear.
Yes, and with a smile. It's I learned that I have a thinking face. Very quite literally, I have a face that looks like I'm thinking and it looks like I'm lost, but it's just me thinking about something. And so I learned that being in Malaysia, if I am going to talk to someone, just smile. Because if they see that I'm not smiling, they might be worried that something is wrong.
Ah,
So that's part of the communication that I use. Smile, be able to greet someone, and then be very short and concise with the way that I ask or say something politely.
boleh kita soalan kalau dekat US macam mana?
Jadi comparing gitu.
Oh, okay. I was about to ask how's the US, but then I realized it might be comparing, so no.
I have a thinking face everywhere. I do try to smile to anyone.
Okay, that was a good one. Many we get, so we're going to do research about that. So next question. Okay, how do you adapt your communication style to suit here, which means in Malaysia? adapting your communication style?
Let's see. It changed. I think that my communication style had to change there very, very
True.
fast. And
Changing. Yeah.
the style varied on who my audience was. Because at the school, remember, where we had 500 students, not everyone was Muslim Malay.
1,000.
1,000.
5,000. 5,000?
1,000.
Oh, 1,000. Okay. Wow. Yeah. So we had 1,000 students at SMK Gerantut.
Yes.
Champion.
We had, I had to adjust my style with the teachers, the students, and then different groups. And so what I picked up on was, if I am going to communicate, I need to make sure that if I'm going somewhere, then I have to pause and I can't look like I'm trying to go there really fast. I have to remain more calm and more patient when I'm talking to someone, so it doesn't seem like I'm rushing to get out of there, even if I'm running a little bit late. So it's just calm, stay paused, like remain still, and then when someone is talking to me, look at them. I tend to make a lot of eye contact, but not a lot of Malaysians make
Yeah.
the same eye contact. So sometimes I may look in a direction near their face, but not so much their eyes if I notice that they're uncomfortable.
General eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
What?
They may be more up by their hair, so it doesn't, if they're uncomfortable with the eyes, I may communicate and it may look like I'm looking at their forehead or their hair in case they don't want me to look at them too much in the eyes. And that's for longer conversations. Then the different styles. Well, okay, so remaining calm, eye contact, my body language, I think I said a little bit about that. And always telling someone, I know that this was what the students would do, have a good day. Usually at the end of my conversations, my style became more of a, all right, thank you for talking to me. But instead of saying that, it was a, have a good day. And here, or I don't know if we're comparing it, but it was like, if I don't see you later, then yes, have a good day. And if I see you later, I still hope you have a good day.
Understand that. So I will explain to you about the eye contact. I think you know about it, but in Malaysia, especially the Malay, this is just explanation, nothing to compare with. So the Malay, we use the eye contacts, indirect, and then avoidance. All of that things you say was actually connecting. Very true. And then about eye contact, we don't look at someone directly uh, in any way that much, especially eye to eye, because it's actually rude to do such thing. So most of the time when we want to greet someone, just like you do, smile, and sometimes we just nudging off, and then just we didn't just keep direct eye contact. So it's rude actually in here. So it's better to just lower the eye gaze actually. Look at somewhere else, like the feet,
Mm-hmm.
the latest, or just what do you call it? A glimpse, just like a glance, or something like that. Just nothing, not more than 1 second when you're looking at someone.
Yes.
So we do not wish people to feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a good one. we get a lot. So the question number 8: what are some of the benefits and challenges of living and working in a multicultural environment?
Okay, there were a lot of benefits. There were so many food options because of all the I the cultural embracings out there, and that allowed me to have a new experience where
Yeah.
I tried different local restaurants, different local homemade foods, and was able to learn from the students what their favorite dishes were, and spices and fruits and foods. So that was what I was able to share in common with the students right away. For example, I'm a big fan of mango. The students like that. I'd never tried durian before. And then I did. Now I like it. And now I
Oh,
look for it here. And so, um, food is one of the biggest advantages of being in a new cultural environment. And like learning from other people's stories, I will say that I was very fortunate to build relations with my community where I don't know if you know this, but one of your classmates, their mom knew our other staff. She is an English teacher. I'm forgetting her name right now, but she's the Indian teacher.
she's an Indian teacher.
Yeah, from SMK Gerontu. She's Indian Malaysian. She introduced me to a tailor in Gerontu, and she gifted me a sari fabric.
Ah,
So
sorry.
she gave me my very first sari.
I
So she
remember.
had, right, the green, blue, and yellow, a little bit of pink. She had the fabric, and she wanted to make sure that I was able to integrate to Malaysia, but more so with the Indian Malaysian community. And so she gifted me the fabric and said that there is a tailor that she knows that happens to be the mom of one of the students. And I grew very closely with the family. And the mom ended up being my tailor. Helped me create my very first sari that I now get to cherish and brought back with me to the US. I'll also say that in line with that, clothing. Clothing is a big part of someone's heritage and their culture. I was able to bring back some, I mean, not just the saris, but other Indian ethnic dresses, and also um, a baju kurung, right? Is that correct?
Baju kurung.
Baju kurung. So I brought back a couple of baju kurungs with me in my luggage as we were packing. I put some of them in my luggage to bring back, and they were my favorite ones. So I I made sure that I packed those so that I wouldn't leave them behind. That's that's another area where I think fashion, food are symbolic to someone's culture. And then being integrated to be a local community member, knowing this is where I like to go grocery shopping, this is where everyone goes, this is the brand that everyone uses, so I also use this brand. That's part of the culture once you get to be aware of how everyone lives day to day out there. And those are the advantages, or some of the advantages. They're not all. I think that there are so many more. And then in terms of a disadvantage, it's yeah, it's a disadvantage if you are adjusting very suddenly without enough preparation. And I say this because in my case, my other classmates were able to maybe prepare more months ahead. I had 10 days to prepare before leaving to Malaysia. So 10 days versus 10 months can make a difference. And when I was leaving, I didn't have all the time to prepare, but I did some research to try to be aware of what to maybe expect or some of the day to day routines and norms that are used in Malaysia. So that's one of the cultural pieces that I didn't have, the disadvantage. That I had a disadvantage and not enough preparation. And then in my case, this one's very specific to me. So it's not one that's in general. I love spicy foods. I eat a lot of spicy foods. And so I brought hot sauce, Mexican hot sauce, because I didn't know if I would be able to find it there. And so that's just one of my disadvantages whenever I go somewhere. I pack a hot sauce, bring it with me so that I can have it with my food. And it's no disrespect to the food that's eaten there. It's just I really need to kick my spice. Like my foods need to be very spicy for me to enjoy them. Although now I've gotten more better. Now I can have it without it being so spicy. um, and so that was just a very personal one when integrating to a different culture. And then the norms between genders. I think that one, if it's in the case where you want to create interactive workshops, for example, when I did the English baking workshops, I was hoping that everyone would be able to work with each other, but the students segregated and then they also separated by gender. So it was exciting for everyone to be in the room. I was hoping that we could all be able to do the work and mix and play music and um, have an experience where you can meet other classmates that maybe you don't talk to every day. But at the end, everyone enjoyed it, but everyone's still segregated based on their culture and based on their gender. So it's
Based
a bit
on
of
the,
mhm.
is that in
Like
Malaysia?
yeah, remember when I had the uh, chocolate chip cookies and the muffin baking workshop
Ah,
upstairs, where the Muslim Malaysians, Chinese Malaysians, and even the Indian Malaysians. The Chinese Malaysians came in later. It was at Muslim Malaysians and Indian Malaysians at the beginning, and then the Chinese Malaysians came in, but everybody segregated themselves between the three groups, and then it was between the boys and the girls, and every group that segregated. So it became
I remember
six
that.
different subgroups.
We're making cookies.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
we were making cookies, right? It's just
I
that
remember
division.
this taste
Huh?
of a sour.
My God, Saul cracks me up. Oh my gosh, he is so funny.
I was wondering who made that one. One single one. I took, I don't remember. I took two pieces of cookie. The other one was okay, but
Yeah,
the one with sour, I took one bite and then I put on the trash. I put it in the trash,
Oh,
and then I was
it
like,
was it was
"Did
the
someone
boys.
sweat here?"
Every time it was the boys. It said it gave instructions how much salt and how much water. I remember that for the cupcakes, they poured the whole bowl of water, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" It wasn't the bowl; it was a cup. So then it was all like soup.
The cupcake was fine. I like it. And the
Yeah,
cookies, no, no.
we could fix the cupcakes, yeah, but the cookies, if you add too much salt, it's done.
I was quite suspicious. I thought, did someone drop a sweat? That's why I don't eat that one. I just, uh, mm, uh,
So,
sambal.
so, okay. Back to the topic.
yeah,
Okay. Mm, this question may sound repeated, but we'll narrow it down. So, question number 9: have you ever encountered misunderstanding in nonverbal, uh, which means body language or gestures. We can narrow it down.
Mm. Okay, when I first arrived to Malaysia, or rather, when I first arrived to Toronto, because when we came, we went to the capital, Kuala Lumpur. Then I went to Kuala Terengganu. So
That's
then I
correct.
went to Toronto. Once I was living
You
in my,
remember the name?
yes,
Quite
once
good.
I ended up arriving to my home, my roommate and I went to eat, and it was at a local restaurant or a local mom and pop shop, as we call them here. Just
Shops.
owned by someone in the community, right? It's not a McDonald's, it's not KFC, it's a local restaurant.
Look,
I ordered water, and I
you
I
say bring
didn't
us.
know this. Yeah, I didn't know at the time, but when they give you the water, they give it to you hot. And so I just asked for water, and they served me water, and I grabbed it, and I took a sip, and I realized it was hot, and I ended up almost, yeah, I was surprised. So my face just showed like a surprised look, and um, I had burned my tongue a little, and the the person serving looked at me very strange. And then I said, like, ice water. I didn't realize that you have to say ice water, but
Mhm.
I learned that the water is boiled to kill the bacteria because there's no filtrated, purified water readily available in all the locations.
Oh yes, local restaurant.
Uh,
Is it local restaurant?
yes, a local restaurant.
No, they don't have that filter machine.
No, they didn't have a filter
They boil.
machine. Yeah, so they boil the water and then they put ice over it to make sure it's room temperature or cold water. So when you just ask for water, they just give you boiling water. I didn't know that. My expression showed surprise and worried because I drank hot water. Surprised. I was thirsty and I was hoping to drink a lot of water. That was a misunderstanding and just miscommunication that I didn't know that you have to specifically ask for cold water.
So,
If Yeah, if they don't have filtered water or if they don't have water bottles.
so I will explain about that. So when you go to restaurant, local restaurant, or we call it mama here. Have you been to mama? Mama restaurant. They're 24 hours with roti canai.
Yes, yes. Roti canai, I missed that. Yeah.
So when you say you want water, they will either give you hot one or lukewarm.
Mm-hmm.
So if you so most of the time if you say water, they will give the hot boiling one. It's because some of us may package ourselves with tea bags or some 3-in-1 sachets.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to order lukewarm water, you say I swam. So I water, swam is warm, lukewarm. So ice warm, lukewarm water.
Mm-hmm.
If you want cold water, you ice cube, sejuk cold.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can just say, can I have ice water? Something like that.
specific.
Yes.
Next time you came to Malaysia,
Yes, that's
yes,
how I ask it now. Ice water.
Biru tamu.
Oh, you said another miscommunication, right? Body language
yes, body language or gestures.
or gestures? Mm-hmm.
Index dah. How about head? till or nodding or everyone just smiling? Do you remember?
Oh, everyone smiled
Mm.
every single day, even if they. I don't know if they were always really happy, but everyone smiled. That was for sure. And it was the teachers. There was the cafeteria staff. It was the students, the parents who would come, the principal. Everyone smiled every single day. And I think with for example, okay, so I know that this happened once at a shopping mall, a shopping center. It was a technology shopping center, and I think I needed to buy a phone charger. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I needed to buy a technology device. And so I went, and I remember asking someone for directions because I was
Direction.
told it was on the second floor. And so, yeah, I asked someone for directions, and they were polite. They said, "Okay, it's over here." But then they looked at me, and they looked at me strange, and they asked me, "Why is your hair not covered?" And I remember I was so surprised, and I said, "Oh," I said, "I'm not Muslim Malay. I'm American. I'm Mexican American. So I'm not Muslim." And then they were like, "Oh, okay." So then they understood. They're like, "Well, now I understand." Um, they were still nice enough to help me, but they were concerned. I think they looked a little bit curious and concerned as to why I was okay wearing my hair out and curly. And that was just the gestures that their face showed and their body expression. But then they seemed more relaxed and it seemed
So
normal.
their body expression is like stand.
Her expression or my expression?
Yeah.
Her, well, she was behind the counter, and hers was, yeah, she was standing, and she was just more shocked. Her face looked more surprised.
So you thought um so wait, I don't get it actually.
She thought that I was Muslim Malaysian, and
Okay,
she thought that I was not following the rules by having my hair exposed. So she quickly wanted to ask me, "Why is your hair not covered?"
okay, I get it.
Yeah,
So they just tag video.
Why not covering there?
Oh, okay, I get. Thank you. So, okay, next question. Um, I think this one you may have answered it, but I'm going to ask anyways. How do you employ strategies to minimize misunderstanding that may occur?
what has helped me was having a mentor, a friend in the country to give me tips and ways of phrasing my questions and gathering information so that I don't make an offense to anyone. We had mentors, all of us, all ETAs, and Noreen? No, hang on a second. I know her by her first name, and I know you're a student, so you probably only know her by her last name. But there was another teacher who became a mentor of mine, a really good friend at the school, who helped me acclimate to the school and to the environment. So she actually was the one who gave me more insight as to how to ask the questions and how to collect the information that was being shared. The question was ways that I strategize, right?
Yes, to minimize misunderstanding.
To minimize misunderstanding. Yes, so a lot of that was from my mentor and my friend in Malaysia who helped me phrase the questions a little different to sound polite, but also sound more general. And a lot of it was ideas on the body language too, and how to be able to do it where it was acceptable. And then that was part of my strategy, making sure that I was able to talk to someone that I trusted to help me formulate my questions. And then as I was gathering the information, if there was something I didn't understand, I may bring it back to them and say, this is what they said, and this is what I interpreted. Is that correct? If I didn't get a chance to ask the person for clarification. And oftentimes, my mentor and my friend were always willing to really clarify it better for me. Similar to how you do, Megat. Remember, you would tell me during lunchtime, oh, here's how we do this, and here's why. And that was not something that everyone tells you. Maybe some people may just tell you, here's how we do this, but you don't know what the why behind it.
Uh, I was mm,
You help
one of
me.
the time.
Okay, claim you.
You're part of the strategy.
So in all peer friends, they help you to minimize strategies.
Mhm.
It was actually good because we just learned that this evening, and it was actually uh, connecting to this interview. Actually, that
Oh,
was very helpful.
yeah, because I built trust. Because you all gave me really good and from really good ways to strategize. So I built trust with you and with the
Yeah,
teacher and my mentor.
this,
Yeah,
you
not
listen.
not everyone, not the whole group. It was just my God who I grew with trust.
These ah no, okay, this question. So this one is very famous in Malaysia. So this is the last question. How do you view the personal space here in Malaysia?
The personal space. I view it based on your proximity.
Proximity.
Yes.
Proximity.
So if go ahead. What I mean by that is that it's based on who is close to you nearby. If it's a person from the opposite gender, for example, I am a woman, if there were a man next to me, my personal space would be more guarded. And so would the men, because we would make sure that we're not physically touching. So we're guarded to make sure that we're not crossing that boundary. But we also technically have more space because of that, but we're just guarding that space to be respectful while we verbally communicate. If it's with the all the girls in the school, the students, the space is by proximity. The space is more friendly and more less guarded. It's less guarded because the girls are okay with high-fiving each other. They give each other hugs. They hold each other by the hands, like they lock arms, their elbow. They may lock their elbows when they walk together, which I think is very cute. So that space is in proximity to the other girl. And with me, some other girls were curious about my hair, so they would touch my hair. So my proximity was far more relaxed and more friendly with the girls. And then with the boys, I was also relaxed, but the boy students, but my proximity to them was always it was a happy time, but I was also a little guarded to make sure that I didn't cross the line by high-fiving each other. So it was just cheering you on, applauding, and asking asking questions, sharing stories. And then with the adults, the space is a little reduced if I'm with a lot of adults so that I can just use little space, very little personal space, so that everyone can also use their own when they move around, when they go to get food, when they sit down. And I noticed this in the mornings when we had breakfast and also when we had lunch, how the teachers would sit with one another, the men and the women. And so I tried making my space as small as possible so that I didn't take up a lot of space, and then so that I could be accepted too by following the norms that are used over there. So it was always in proximity and in relation to who I was around, how I would either grow or minimize my personal space. And I had to grow to be comfortable with that, which I am okay doing. It's not something that I was uncomfortable with. I was okay doing that during the time I was there.
So you view personal space in Malaysia as the nearest proximity.
Yes, who's around you? Yes. When I was in my home in Malaysia, everything was like, okay, this is my whole personal space. This is the kitchen. This is my living room. These are our bathrooms. We had 2 floors. Um, the car was our personal space. We can play any music. We can play the music in Spanish and English. We can watch anything at home. We didn't feel censored. We felt very free.
Mm.
Hmm.
So I still remember, forgive madam, but I still remember that you said that you, do you remember that you came to me that and then you said about something like busybody, especially the teachers. Remember that?
Was this that someone called me a busybody?
No, no, no.
Or was
You said that the the woman or Malaysia busybody.
when I say busybody, I mean that the person is always moving around. They're always getting up and getting something or going somewhere. So their body's just busy moving all the time.
But in Malaysia,
Hmm.
busybody is being, it means that someone who likes to, gossip and then care too much about other people.
Oh, well, that
You remember
too.
that you came to me that time early in the morning and then you said that you're wearing, what was it? Something, something that you can wear in school, and then the teachers started to, gossip or talking about you, why you wear something like that, and then it was like, and then you were like, you was like, if you want to say something, say it to my face, not gossiping behind me. I remember that. Uh,
Okay. Yes. This might be part of another question that maybe was before. The women and men in Malaysia are do gossip. I noticed that. There is a lot of that busybody that happened there. And I don't remember what I was wearing that time,
it's a
but
black, I don't remember, black clothes, and then you, no, 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 it's not sweater, but windbreaker, and then you tied it on your waist.
oh, I remember the windbreaker. Um,
I think it perhaps about the curve.
was it during sports week?
Maybe.
Okay, I remember something that happened like that, and I forget the details, but I remember exactly you're right. Around the time, yes, it bothered me that I realized that they were talking about me, but they weren't telling me anything. So I
Mm,
wasn't aware of what was going on. I
yes.
think until my mentor told me, I want to say it was my mentor who told me what was going on because she knew that I had no idea. And that was because I guess the confrontational part, nobody wanted to go ahead and confront and say it. So everybody just spoke it around, knowing I wasn't fluent in Malay, knowing I didn't know that this was not going to be okay with them. So it was a misunderstanding that my mentor went ahead and communicated with me, but it wasn't intentional. It was an honest mistake. I didn't know that. And so yeah, I did call them a busybody over there. I was like, it's true. The women and men gossip a lot.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I remember that you came to me early in the morning and then you say you feel homesick.
Mm, so,
I'm confrontational.
Uh, did I help you a lot in that time?
Yes, more than enough. I think that you made me aware more of my surroundings. I probably went in a little more naive. And you helped me understand, like, hey, listen, this is there. Or here's, you really always told me why we do things. And you never made me feel dumb or
Ah,
ignorant. You
or
helped
wonder
educate. Mhm.
because I'm more direct.
Yes.
Right.
And you
And
also were more fluent in English. You were less shy or less insecure about practicing your English with me. Some students were more shy and insecure and didn't feel comfortable completing full sentences. So you had the most confidence and more calmness and willingness to talk with me. I don't know if you did it with all the ETAs, but I'm very
I did
grateful that
it.
you did. Yeah.
But like I said, do you remember that I said that among other ETs, you are the one I think I get close, very comfortable, and I think I'm
Mm.
more like I think I like this one or something like that.
oh,
Thank you. I do my best to make sure that the students and I have a positive relationship.
Mm.
You're also
We-
my favorite student, or one of my favorites, and I probably shouldn't be saying that,
I
especially
still,
on the record.
I still kept that pen drive that Sheldon Cooper.
The flash drive.
Ingat tak Sheldon Cooper pen drive tu?
yeah. Oh,
Pen drive
yes.
gambar kartun tu.
Oh, that one.
Yes, I still have that.
Well, it's because you're smart, you're intelligent, and you reminded me of him because you're both intelligent, but you're more socially intelligent too.
We were supposed to end session and then we can, chit chat.
Sorry, everyone. It's been 4 years.
Okay. Okay, let's end with uh, proper way. Um, so that's all for the questions, and thank you for the answers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We are grateful that someone wished to help us, especially me, Muga Azim. Really grateful that you keep in touch, even though we haven't spoke for long time, because I thought you were busy, so I didn't want to interrupt. Um, so all the questions were carefully, thoroughly, what do you say?
By the
Checked by the my lecturers, uh, ensuring that there was no, um, provoking or any offensive questions. Try to compare, no, nothing. So, do you find the questions comfortable or reasoning?
Yes, absolutely.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you very much.
Do you remember Alhamdulillah?
One more time. Can you
Do
repeat?
you remember Alhamdulillah?
No, I don't. What is that?
Shukr, which being thankful to Allah. It's like gratitude.
Oh, okay. Um, Geez, I should have brushed up on my Malay before getting on the call, but thank you for interviewing me and selecting me for your classroom project. I feel very honored to be selected and to have built such an amazing relationship with you, Megad. I'm very proud of you. Um, yeah, I, I don't think that I have enough words to express my gratitude for you, and I think you're going to be a really successful person in this world. You're a kind-hearted person and very bright, and I picked that right up when I met you. So I'm very excited to see that you're in college, and I can't wait to see what else you do. One day, if you become, I don't know, some prime minister of Malaysia, I would not be surprised, and it would make me. I mean, I could already see you there, but I could see you doing any role that you put your mind to. I support you, and if you ever do need another interview, we can also chit chat outside of this.
Okay.
But if you ever need an interview, please don't hesitate to contact me. My schedule's always all over the place, but I will make sure that I make accommodations. Thank you.
Thank you for the words. Uh,
Moga is blushing now.
All right, let me stop recording, and then